What's up, Katie?
Track of how many times we say on the mat tonight.
I don't know. I think Jackie's here taking notes, so we can have Jackie do
Excellent. I do have kiwi juice with me today, so I don't know if that counts, but
it. On the mat drinking game, coming to a store near you. What's up, David?
What's going on, guys?
Dude, so glad you could make it out tonight. Really happy to talk to you.
Heck yeah, we've been trying to set one of these up for a while, so it's good to be able to make it. And I'm actually off this time, so no listening from my truck.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, you've been a really big part of this, man. I appreciate that you log in at work and you stay even keep up with the replays and stuff like that. We always talk about it in the morning, so
Yeah,
really
definitely.
really appreciate that.
speaking of people being gone, Robert, Mr. Skips Jiu-Jitsu for a week, actually just sent me a picture of him out there in Colorado kicking booty at someone else's gym. So, hi, Rob. Just so you know, I got your text. Appreciate you showing up for Zia.
Nice.
Yeah, Rob's up north. Very cool. He said he was going to hit a couple gyms out there. And the topic today is good training partners because they're hard to find, hard to come by. And I know we talked about this a little bit already, but David, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then if you have any comments on the topics, man, fire away. We'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm David. I've been training at Zia for better part of 8-9 months, but I was on a hiatus from the garage days, so that was also another good time for a while. I don't know, like we've already kind of discussed most of the backstory of how I got into martial arts and stuff, but there's a lot of new people, so I guess I could get into that. Um, so kind of a recurring uh, topic, I guess, is football, but um, so did like a week of wrestling practice in like third or fourth grade, and then they opened the inaugural years for Pop Warner in Silver City, and my parents had me choose between wrestling and football, and so I chose football. But I always kind of stayed with the combative sports as well. Like in sixth grade, I want to say I started boxing, and I did that for a little while, and then I moved into kickboxing for about a year and a half. You guys all heard about that whole Taekwondo debacle that happened. Did that for like a month and a half, and then most of us in the class had prepaid for a few months, and the guy kind of just disappeared. Yeah, not always a good. There's not always a good outcome, but people move on, I guess.
Crazy the experience that you get because I've got really limited experience as far as other gyms, and
hmm
the stories that I hear from some other people, you don't always get the same look depending on where you're
Right.
going. So it's interesting the people you meet and the people that you end up getting to train with sometimes.
Well, funny you say people you meet too, because it's a weird segue. Yours and Daniel's and Jared's friend Caleb, his wife, I actually met Keisha in that Taekwondo class.
Was that here in Cruces?
No, that was in Silver. I think
Oh,
I was in like seventh grade, and she was in eighth or ninth grade. She's a couple years older than I am.
that's really cool. Yeah, Silver. We've had a lot of people on from Silver, man, and I really like to hear, the martial arts stories from out there.
hmm And like it's crazy too because I didn't really know a whole lot of martial artists growing up, or like where you could even find a dojo. I know there was not a whole lot until that boxing and kickboxing gym opened up when I was in like sixth or seventh grade. I want to say I was in sixth grade, but it started off at like the community rec center, and then the dude wanted to stop doing it kind of for free, and he ended up getting a place. I don't know if you guys, whoever's familiar with it, but there used to be a restaurant in Silver City called Red Barn, and the gym was like a block down the road, like behind that Red Barn restaurant. It was crazy. Like there was a local TV station that televised a couple of boxing matches out of that little gym. It was pretty wild.
So speaking of teeny tiny worlds, my dad actually coached Pop Warner right when you were playing. So not only like it's kind of crazy like in silver. So when you were playing, my dad was coaching the Jaguars for a little bit, which was kind of cool. But also I know exactly which gym you're talking about because I did martial arts in silver. I did the karate right, and then Chad actually did martial arts at a different place in silver. So super cool teeny tiny world that we all had different experiences at different martial arts places in silver.
Yeah, super. But I would definitely say, like, even though there was a couple of places you could get to it, it was still like rather limited.
I'd say for sure. And I think that that's a little bit due to silver's size. And I think also, kind of on the topic for today, a lot of people who wanted to go out and do bigger things had limited training partners. And that's a really big problem when you're in a small town trying to do big things. There might be 3 or 4 people interested in you, but the likeliness of them being in the same weight class as you is slim to none. So
And that's crazy. Your dad coached for the Jaguars, because the first year that I ever played, the Jaguars were in that same, I guess, age or weight group that I played in, because I was on the Dolphins with my brother and like some friends, and then there was the Steelers, the Jaguars, and the Lions that were in that little age division. That's crazy,
right, that's what I'm saying. Like super cool. So glad you're on, David. Like happy to have another Silver City fellow on here.
right? Yeah, my wife's on here too. She's from Silver, so she kind of knows what's up with the Silver scene.
That's awesome that you guys had that much martial arts out in a town that size, because growing up in Hatch, we had absolutely no martial arts. There was no wrestling. All you had was really football, baseball, basketball, and that was it. So really cool that you get exposed at a young age to stuff like that, because it was different back then. YouTube wasn't around. You couldn't just look stuff up, look up videos, and learn different things. So you were really kind of limited to what you had in your area.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as wrestling goes, there was more clubs that opened up like later on after I was already in high school and graduated and joined the Marines, but um there was, I think, the only wrestling club there was outside of actual academic wrestling was also ran by like the high school coaches. So they were kind of like doubling down their time with the high schoolers and then taking care of the youth as well.
David, you've got a really good, from what you've explained, a really good background and a lot of different martial arts experience. You know, what do you think goes into making a good training partner? Because I think I really appreciate your attendance, and whenever we get to train together, you know, you're definitely on my list of good training partners. But what do you think goes into something like that?
Man, oh well, I really appreciate that. That's super awesome to know. Well, training partners and what makes a good one. So obviously, you want to be conscious or conscientious about your own growth, but in order to be a good training partner, you have to realize that you're going to be working with others, and you're going to need that support, and you need to be the support for them as well. Definitely being conscientious of your partner's growth is a big one. Knowing how to accommodate their strengths and knowing how to build up their weaknesses is a big one for sure.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned you've got experience coaching, and that really shows through on the mats. Because you're not trying to go like above and beyond. When certain people that are new in a martial art try to teach, you can cringe sometimes, especially white belts. But uh,
Hmm.
but you've got a good background and good experience, and you've got those coaching talents, which really help when you're working with other people, because you can kind of help coach them through something that they may be having a hard time with.
Yeah, for sure. There's been a couple of newer people that show up that maybe have a limited grappling background but are still athletically talented, and so It's good whenever we're running drills or something. If I notice that they're doing something maybe not incorrectly, but could be doing it better, just add little tweaks and touches there. And like, I get it. I'm still a white belt, so I'm not trying to completely just impose, but at the same time, like I said, being conscious of somebody's weaknesses and kind of supplementing that for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it goes a long way to helping the learning process, especially helping someone feel comfortable if they might be new.
But let's not
Yeah,
forget that David is a Marine.
yeah. Had training partners doing McMap and all that good stuff too. So definitely know how to work as a team and be a teammate and also be a team leader. So it's just comes with the territory, I guess. Definitely coaching the football team for Jaden has exponentially grown my directive or teaching capabilities. Learning how to talk to people, learning how to communicate. It's huge, especially doing it in a way that doesn't make somebody like put them out. You know what I mean? Make them feel dumb or make them feel like they're completely just messing up.
I really appreciate that comment, man, because I think, like, absolutely agree. And I love how you say, like, I want people to feel comfortable as my partners. Because I know, like, everyone knows that as you're a white belt, a lot of the time you spend is kind of trying to survive through your roles. But sometimes I think that you get into this habit as like upper belts where you're like, oh, well, they're a white belt, so I'm just gonna push, push, push. And so I think it's good to have people that recognize, like, hey, they need to learn too. And it's all right to catch a submission, put them into submission, but then it's okay to also let them work through that submission and kind of say, like, hey, here's what you're doing, here's a way to escape, et cetera, et cetera. So I really appreciate that that's something that you have in mind when you're working with people, because I know I've had a lot of people express frustration about, like, feeling like just getting crushed all the time. So excellent point on that.
Yeah, for sure. And then especially like you don't want to be a mat bully because then you're going to end up meeting the enforcer of the school. You know what I mean?
One of the things that I always see on the mats, and I've got a different perspective, but you mentioned it earlier, David. It can be hard to balance your growth with your training partner's growth, and especially if you know they need to cover some basics or they need to really slow down and piece together the technique. Then that can mean that maybe you're doing a little bit more, guiding than learning that day. And some people are okay with that, but some people you can kind of tell that it irritates them when they have to slow things down for a new person.
Yeah, definitely. In that aspect, I mean, if you're going to get into the teaching side, you're going to have to know or at least attempt to learn patience. It's not going to come easy, and it's especially for me, I'm a pretty active coach, I guess. Jasmine knows, she's seen me out on the field working with the linemen and everything, but I'm usually the brute coach, but I do it in a way that's more to try to help motivate and push you to do it than just ragdoll you the whole time.
And you can see something really similar in jiu-jitsu. That can definitely happen on the mat as well. Katie,
Yeah,
before we get into any of the other questions, did you have any comments on the topic?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of nice that it got brought up because we're all different experiences in different weight classes. And I appreciate that you bring up like making sure that you're also learning and like putting aside your learning or continuing your learning with people. I think for me, my experience with choosing partners is a little bit different from both of you guys in just the fact that I am so much smaller than a lot of people that come in. And so a point I do want to make is that it's absolutely okay when you're picking partners to say yes or no to people. There have been new people that come in where I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna let him work with David, and it's gonna be a good time. Because even with how comfortable I am with my jiu-jitsu skills now, I think that there are just some people that come in and I watch them work with like you, or watch them work with David or Jamie, and I'm like, you know what? At this point, I think my own health and safety is more important than working with this person. So I think it is important to consider being a good partner, but also that it's okay to say like yes or no to partnering with someone, depending on your experience and their lack thereof.
That's a great point, because up to certain levels, it takes you a while in jujitsu to really feel comfortable handling yourself against all types of people. And the things that you may see from a new person may not be traditionally the things that we teach in the gym. So it's definitely okay to say no. Be careful when you're picking your training partners. And one more thing before we continue that I just wanted to bring up was also maybe the opposite end of the spectrum is don't get too attached to a certain training partner, because I've seen people where they work really well with someone, but then that's the only person they want to work with, and they don't want to work with any of the new people or the white belts, and then that can cause a little bit of tension when we're trying to make sure everyone's growing and learning.
I 100% agree. And I think it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this the other day because I had one of the ladies that had come and tried out for one of the jiu-jitsu classes very, very briefly. But I was kind of giggling because Jackie and I automatically assumed that role of like the jiu-jitsu moms, where we were like, okay, we'll get your keys and we'll tie your belts for you and we'll show you how to work. And I think that's kind of a fun thing too, of being able to have, especially with the ladies, because, women coming in, they get nervous. It's a mat full of large, sweaty men, and so that's always fun too. So absolutely agree. And I think I've seen higher belts complain about having to work with lower belts, and I think that's disheartening to see. I think if you're coming in and you're like, I just want to learn, and then someone's like, well, I don't want to work with you because I don't feel like I'm going to learn, or I just don't want to work with someone who's spazzing out, it can be pretty hurtful. So I am very glad that we have the opportunity to welcome in those new people and be kind of like the mat moms. It's a pretty good time. So absolutely agree with that as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of people at the gym that can make people feel very welcome. I know, Jamie's on here. Even David has been helping me in the mornings. I it was hard. The morning classes kind of hit a rut, and I was having trouble staying motivated. But David has come back, and he's really been a big piece of that puzzle that's helped me kind of continue to stay motivated, training hard, and learning in the morning. So I appreciate it, man. I thank you for coming on and talking with us.
Yeah, for sure. The morning classes definitely seem to be picking up now that summer is starting to play in. School's coming to an end for the semester. Maybe not 100% over, but people might be finishing up tests and all that other stuff, and starting to see a lot of new faces. And it's nice being able to help you demo, or if there's some of the new guys that are rolling and they're trying to figure something out, giving them a chance to learn that and coach them through it. So for sure, I hope once I get into my blue and purple belt, I'll be able to transition to a lot of that coaching stuff, because as martial artists, it's kind of a I feel like if you don't want to move into that coaching position as you move up, you're kind of doing a disservice to the art. You know what I mean?
I do, man, and I don't know if other people will get it, but at some point, especially when you stop competing, or if you don't have goals of being a really serious competitor, then the only thing that you can do is share the art, and it's in
Hmm.
the art I think that the richness is, because we each get to kind of give and take a little bit and participate in other people's journey. So I'm happy to have you there, man. And I know if I put somebody to work with you, I know that you're going to, no matter what level they are, I know you're going to be a great partner for them, which is why, we talked about this topic.
Yeah, definitely. There's been times that rolling around with Rob. I know both of us are kind of the super heavyweights of the group. He'll throw on a neon belly and kind of stay on his toes a little bit, keep the weight off. But it's like you kind of want to nudge him over to like, all right, it's gonna be uncomfortable, but I'd rather you put it on deep and rich so that I know what it feels like to be in that position, and it keeps you from creating a bad habit. You know what I mean?
Yes, there's a line that, at some point when people walk in, depending on their experience level, you kind of let them work and you let them get into positions. But then there's a time when you really have to stop, or else you're going to build bad habits. And
Hmm.
it's hard to really know when to draw that line. And like with guys like Rob, I think we were talking about it earlier. You might regret it, man, when you tell him to put the pressure on, but it's going to help both of you in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, both of us are kind of getting ready to put on the blue belt here pretty soon, and at that point, still focus on us. You know what I mean? And our rolling partners. But yeah, keeping us from building bad habits early is going to be crucial to our skill building.
Man, I appreciate you coming out. This is about the time where I know we've had people jumping in and out, and I love the participation. So thank you, everybody. If anybody else has any comments, please feel free to jump in, raise your hand. Jamie, I don't know if you got that message, but I'd love to hear what you think on training partners. Rob, feel free to take it away if anybody wants to.
Let's not remember to thank David for his service as a Marine.
Yeah, absolutely, man. David's always throwing in the really cool McMap techniques, or he's got a little bit different perspective. So it's always awesome to see, the way he breaks down technique or the things that he's seen. But David's always sharing his Marine style jiu-jitsu with us.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Dave, haven't seen you in a while, buddy.
Yeah, man, it'll be good to link up, get some pay-per-views watched. You know what I mean? It'll be good.
That's another episode we've talked about having some people on and talking UFC, because I know, we have a lot of friends that really get into this and follow and have a deep knowledge about the sport. And I can talk UFC all day.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy too how many people have kind of gone away from the sport, and you're seeing all these new risers come up, and whenever people mention like these old dogs, it's like some of the people that you're around are like, "Oh, who are they?" It's like, "What? When did you get into the UFC?" Like, whoa.
I would 100% feel that. Cowboy, like a week ago, just announced that he is cutting it off at 50 fights. So I don't know if you saw the post I made where he rescheduled his most recent fight, but yeah, he said he's cutting it off at 50 and then he's hanging up the gloves. I'm not emotionally prepared for it, but at the same time, I just hope he keeps going with jiu-jitsu. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, I know he had that match against Craig Jones, which is a tall order. Cut.
He got sick.
He got food poisoning.
Is that what it was? The last thing I saw was that it was un-COVID related illness or non-COVID related illness.
Yeah, they called it food poisoning, and that's why he made weight, but he didn't fight.
Hey, Jamie, I see your speaker's on, man. You want to jump in?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me on. David, it's always a pleasure to have you around. I wish I was able to go to the morning classes, because the few times we trained together was great. And once again, seeing you at that competition that day there, I think it was Naga in El Paso, and you tapped that guy out to pressure. That was fantastic. And you also got a good throw in the same comp.
Yeah, the collar drag heard around the Coliseum, yeah. Man, it was awesome.
Yeah, you hit that guy with the earth. But for good training partners, that's one of the many things I really like about Zia. We seem to have an abundance of them. And me personally, I think what really helps me is having a variety of different people, different styles. Because if you only have like 3 or 4 different people you train with, you figure out what I'm going to do, I figure out what you're going to do, and then we become kind of limited and boxed in what our options are. And with the variety of different people and different skill levels, I think it really does enhance your ability to learn jiu-jitsu, because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing there. We're all there working with each other, trying to get better. It gets competitive at times, but we're all working together, trying to make each other better. And I think it helps to have people that are way better than you and people that are like more of a novice, because it enables you to try out new stuff and stuff that you wouldn't be able to risk with somebody that has the same skill level you have. So yeah, having a broad spectrum of people to train with. I mean, and like, we always talk about this, like who you'll train with, who you like to train with. I like training with everybody, as long as it's somebody who's not so spazzy that they're going to hurt you or hurt themselves. I can train with anybody. I'm happy to train with somebody who's 85 pounds, and I'll train with a big 280-pound guy. I really don't mind.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I've never shied away from any sort of competition, big or small. Definitely not afraid to mix it up with the bigger guys. So, because I'm one of them, but there's definitely still people in the super heavyweight class that are larger than I am. So, but no, it's part of it, man. Like I said, all about growth. And if you're not pushing yourself, you're not you're not learning anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in the dance of jujitsu, the people that I always see, the wallflowers that are hard to find partners for are definitely the very small people and the very big people. Everybody else in between kind of matches up, but it's hard to really to get to find people on both ends of the spectrum.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, it's an issue if you're trying to learn throws and sweeps and stuff like that. But other than that, like I don't mind training with anybody. It's I don't think I don't feel shortchanged and training with a smaller person, and I'm really not afraid to train with any of the bigger people either.
As a speaker for the small people community, I appreciate that. Oh man, when I first started, I was so scared to ask people to partner with me because I thought I was just being irritating. I was like, oh man, like I'm just gonna be their rest round. Like no one wants to work with me. And then Jamie would specifically always, like, if I was just hanging out by the edge, like waiting, he'd always come and like pick me out, and that made me feel so good. So we super appreciate that. But yeah, it's one of those things where with me, I do have, like, I get a little bit picky past a certain weight. And that's just because there are days where I'm like, I feel the like fight fire inside me where I'm like, you know what, I'm totally fine, like going 100% this whole round with someone. But there's other days where I'm like, man, I don't want to get crushed for an entire round by someone 3 times my size.
You definitely don't have to feel that way. You're one of the people I like rolling with. I always get a lot out of it, and it forces me to be more technical because, like, if it was a street fight or if for some reason you and I were in a competition and it was like absolute and we got paired up, I could take the easy way out and just lay on top of you, and it would be a lot harder because I got like 80 pounds on you. But if I'm actually going to do jujitsu and move around and actually be technical, you're not easy to get over on. So I have no issue, rolling with somebody significantly smaller to me, because you're technical and you know what you're doing. There's a lot of aspects of jujitsu that you're way better at than I am.
Shoot, thank you. And like right back at you. My honest thing is, like, I really enjoy working with people bigger than me because, again, like 9 times out of 10, if I'm gonna get attacked on the street, it's gonna be someone bigger than me. But also, if I ever do want to do it like an open and absolute division, then I have to get used to working with people and working with guys like Jamie size, working with like David, even Robert. I see you down there. It just means I have to be really fast, and I gotta work because one of our guests, Natasha, had said, like, hey, when you're working with bigger people in absolute divisions, you have to make sure that you're quicker than they are, because if they get on top of you, that's it. And I was like, that is such a good point. And I internalized it, and I've been working on it in the gym because she's absolutely right. And so it's really great to work with people of all sizes. It's interesting because I have a few people my size, and it's a totally different game, dude. Like, so different from working with bigger people versus smaller people. But it's good all around, and I really appreciate the culture we have in the gym where everyone's open to roll with everyone. It's really awesome.
Katie, you're right about the whole size thing about being fast with bigger people. Because when I did Absolute in Albuquerque, my first match was a guy that was like half my size, and I was all, I got this in the bag, and he was so fast, and took me back, and that was it.
Yeah, those little guys in the absolute division, they're in there for a reason. So
Yeah,
you can't sleep on any of them.
yeah. And Katie, don't forget, you've choked me out 2 times, so I think you can take on big people.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you. I'm sure you were going, oh, like 100%, absolutely, on my tiny 105-pound frame, but you're a real one. Love you.
Yeah, and it's crazy too. Like I've always said it. Like I definitely feel more comfortable rolling with people bigger than me because I would have that speed advantage. Whereas whenever I start, messing with people in the lower weight classes or people smaller than me, like I had some rolls with Anthony and homie Cody the other day, and those dudes were just climbing all over me. It was absolute mania, like trying to keep them pinned down, but definitely learned a lot in trying to defend against them and moving around the mat with them. So it was definitely a good time.
Before we wrap, I want to go back because Jamie mentioned it, and thank you, Jamie, for bringing it up. Your competition at Naga, man, I know that one was your first competition in a while. So for people that don't know, man, we trained really hard for that leading up to the Naga. And I know it was something that was, one of your goals to go out there and compete. And man, not only did you compete, but you really blew people away. And you were one of the most exciting matches out there to watch.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. We both put in a lot of work for that competition, and I was super happy to see a lot of that stuff come to fruition that we worked on. I mean, we drilled and drilled and drilled and drilled, and absolutely that collar drag was one of the things that we worked so hard on, and I was super happy to see that I was able to land it in comp and in a way that completely like shook the division. Everybody was super looking out for it after that. Even though I only had one more match after it, that dude was very aware of hand placement when I started reaching for his lapel.
Man, you didn't just shake the division, you shook the venue. So there were people there were people that were standing around, and when you hit that first collar drag, I heard people behind me that weren't even from our gym, and they were like, "Man, did you feel that?" And the ground was literally shaking when you were hitting these takedowns, and you hit them at will. So, it really speaks to the time you put in and the hours, prior to, because it was perfect, just textbook.
Thank you. And I mean, I said we both put in a lot of work, which you put in a lot of time and effort on me for that competition, and super appreciative. I was looking at the grappling industries and Naga for I think it's late September in Albuquerque. So looking to hit one of those or both if I can. Definitely gonna at least try to make compromises to get to one or the other. So it'll be good to start getting back into competition shape and making advancements in my game to showcase new skills and things that I'm building on since the first competition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nothing moves a game along like competing, whether, even if it goes horribly wrong and you lose every match, your game progresses so much, that's why it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny story actually. My Twitter picture is the very first grappling competition I ever went to or participated in. So it's crazy to see me at 199 pounds grappling against, I was the smallest person in the division by like 18 pounds. And the farthest person from me was 243. So it's crazy.
You let me know which competition you're gonna compete in, because you still owe me a match.
I know, man. I did my absolute best in that first match to get into the gold medal with you, and I, I'm telling you, I was bummed that I didn't get it, but yeah, we'll get there, dude.
I was bummed too, and I threw that guy really hard for you.
That poor guy, man. I feel for that guy. He's been thrown so much in the last like 6 or 7 months. They had to give him a blue belt for you to get out of that division. But no, going back to David and like the Naga stuff, man. Like again, on the topic of the day, good trading partners is that's what you do. Sometimes you hang up your own progress in order to see your teammates progress, and that when you do it can be really really satisfying. I don't know how many more competitions I have in me. I do love competing, but coaching and competing, teaching and competing, it becomes really hard. And I know a lot of people are always asking, like, when am I going to go? When am I going to go? Um, so I hope I get to very soon. But seeing you guys have success, I have to tell you, means even more than if I were to win every gold medal for any competition I've ever been in.
Uh, Comment on your training partner thing. So I wanted to say this earlier. So cool thing about Zia is, like me being a wipeout, I'm not scared to go partner up with a higher belt like a blue belt or a purple belt. Like every time we're Spencer's teaching us something, and if I pair up with, I know for a fact when I pair up with a higher belt than me, that they're not gonna be mean about it or like get like irritated because they're training with someone's a wipeout. They're gonna get their skills in too, but they're gonna help me learn. Okay, like this is where you're doing wrong. Okay, do this. You know what? Like especially with Mark, you, Jamie, and Bannock, like all you guys at the same time, like have shown me alternate things to do so I can get that technique down. And that, to me, being a higher belt and being able to work with the lower belts and teach them is a really damn good being a damn good training partner.
Thanks, man. I think we do. We attract a lot of people that have those qualities, that not only train hard but also like to see other people learn and help other people learn. And it's hard to come by. So we're really lucky.
Yeah, for sure. Like I gravitate towards Rob just because he's one of the other big guys in the gym, and it makes it easier to prepare for the other big guys that I'm going to face in that division. But at the same time, I also really enjoy, trying to test my mettle against the higher belts, blue, purple, messing around with Spencer. I haven't gotten to roll with him in a while. Um, he's been more on the teaching end than the grappling or like messing around end. But it would be good to get back on the mat with Spencer. I had a couple of really good rolls with him back in the garage days, and it was super fun. But no, definitely in the Marines, we used to fight for belts. Like I was I was a gray belt in McMap. I had practiced through brown belt. I just never tested, and it was always fun to like grapple against the brown belts or the green belts or the black belts, because you would, if you beat them, you would take their belt home with you, kind of like a trophy. And I know I got to hang, a great handful of green belts and brown belts. I only had one black belt, but no, it was always funny because they'd be like, how are you only a gray belt? And it's like, well, I didn't test for my brown belt yet.
Yeah, and you see that in martial arts or in jiu-jitsu sometimes with people that move a lot and maybe get up to blue or right up to blue and don't ever get promoted, but they've got a lot of experience. I know you're always sharing those secret brown black belt McMap techniques with me. Greatly appreciated, man. Some of it's really good stuff.
For sure. Not a lot of it translates over to the sports side because it is a combat martial art, but the things that do translate to the sports side of martial arts, man, they are super just deep, helpful, skill enriching or playbook enriching things that you can take and add to your deck.
Oh yeah, man. We've got some Pokemon players in the house. So you build that deck up in Jiu-Jitsu just like you build the Poke deck. Um, I've been way into that game lately, way too into that game lately. But man, David, it's been great talking to you. If anybody else has any other comments or questions, feel free to jump in. And we can, if not, we can definitely wrap this up. David, once again, man, thank you for jumping on with us.
100% agree. And I think that like having great training partners just kind of is my closing statement on the topic. Like your training partners are so important, they're invaluable, and they're also your friends. And I think that a lot of people when they go into gyms kind of assume it's going to be like, oh, I go in, I do a few hours, and then I leave. And that's just not how it works, man. Especially with me, I like to get everyone out of their shells. Like I am probably like one of the most personable people in the gym. Like you're not gonna have the opportunity to not be super talkative. And man, I have so many great friends from the gym. Like I was literally just texting Rob about it the other day. I was just irritating him, and he was like literally walking me around like a shoe because he's so much bigger than me. I was clinging to his leg, and I look like a boot. And I was like, man, how great is it that I have a bunch of goofy friends I get to hang around with for 2 hours every night? Like this is a good time. So training partners are great to have because they make great friends too.
That's a great statement. Absolutely. And I think I've met so many great people in the sport. That's why I keep coming back to it, day in and day out. Hopefully, that's why you guys keep coming back. And I absolutely love everybody I get to interact and engage with. Um, but yeah, thank you guys so much. I think we'll wrap things up right there.